Hi, welcome to Dr. Lisa Solsenti's podcast, and I'm Dr. Lisa Solsenti. And today I want to talk about protein. So, as you can see, if you've been listening on the last few podcasts, I tackled carbohydrates because I felt like that was such a huge topic that gets misunderstood a lot. And with glucose and sugar and everyone being afraid of carbs, I went into the good carbs versus the bad carbs and honestly broke that down, I think, in a very simplistic way to make you understand that carbs are critical to your diet, but make sure you eat the right ones. Then we moved into fats, which actually was the same topic in the sense of good versus bad. But there's some really ugly ones in there. So you really, really need to avoid the ugly. And then we talked about having a nice balance between the good and, quote, bad, unquote, because we discussed those, are they really bad and why they're bad and how they're linked to your health issues. I also had another podcast show between those two, macronutrients versus micronutrients, and that was because micronutrients are so important for you to be healthy, and they are the ones I feel that don't get enough attention. I think the macros take it all. So please listen to those. I think they're fun, and I think they're super informative, and they're really about educating you and trying to implement, these small steps into your lifestyle that you can make changes. If you're not ready to meet with me or, work with me, you can definitely be making some great changes through my podcast because I try to teach you as much information that I can. So let's talk about the power of proteins, right? They're the hardcore workers of the body. So they're really important. We talked about carbs, fats, they all have their role, but think of these guys as wearing the hard hats and going off to physically tough labor work. So these are the building blocks of every single cell and pretty much for almost every function. And I don't like the word every because it's a dangerous word, but I'm using it here because that's how crazy important they are. And because they're so important, you need to choose the right ones because the wrong ones will create havoc in the body. I think there's a trend or a thread through all of my conversations of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats and micronutrients, but especially carbs, proteins, fats, is that man, I always put down man because I just feel that companies and industrializations really took it too far. And we can take a beautiful food, beautiful plant, and manipulate it in the lab and create havoc in the body with it. So a lot of our diseases actually can be caused by man messing up with really healthy foods. So my whole point is you can take a healthy food and change it into an unhealthy food and then really just cause problems. So I want to talk about that with the proteins. And I think we covered a little bit about very lightly with that with the fats. And we'll get into that. But let me talk about the benefits of proteins. Okay, we said tissue, muscle, organ depends on protein. Proteins strengthen the immune system. They build healthy bones, nail, skin. They also build ligaments, cartilage, tendons, so they're good for your joints and joint repair. And they're also going to build tissue, like nails and skin and hair and bones and joints, but gut. So when we are repairing the gut wall, we are looking at protein. Specifically, we love to use collagen, which I'm going to get into because I want to talk about the protein powders and things like that. But gut wall tissue repair. So your gut wall's damaged and we need to repair it, build new tissue. We need protein. So injury repair, tissue repair, joint repair, it's all there. They also transport hormones, ladies and men, but definitely thyroid hormones. So if you're not eating enough protein, you might have a problem with some of your, again, I talked about this in the fats, is that a lot of the things you see on blood work are buoys. They're red flags and they're saying, hey, something's not right. And instead of just writing a prescription, what I like to do, or give a supplement or an herb, I like to, and I can't write prescriptions, so that would be, somebody else doing that for you. But what I like to do with the patient, and I always tell people, think of an iceberg and the buoys buoying at the top of the iceberg. But I like to put on the scuba gear, hold my patient's hand and dive deep and go, what's going on? Why are the why is the thyroid screaming? Why are these markers, buoying me? Is there a vitamin deficiency? The micronutrients are super, super, super important for the thyroid. I can't even stress that. That is how I reversed mine, was through micronutrients. I reversed the numbers, and I'm working on the mass I have here, but I'm doing really well with it. Um, but do you have enough? Simple question: do you have enough protein for your thyroid hormones to transport them around the body? From A to B. They also provide brain power. Definitely the plant and the fish oils. So again, if we're talking ADD, ADHD, memory, focus, all that stuff for the brain, sleep, what are you eating, right? How much should you have a day? Okay, so this is controversial, and this is going to be different. So when you're looking at Instagram or, social media university, and you're like, oh my gosh, but this MD says this, but this trainer says this, but this functional medicine says this, but this girl that looks amazing says this. Everybody's lifestyle is different. Everybody's walk is different. And each of the practitioners that you listen to were all coming from a different place too. I'm functional medicine. I'm not medical. So we might be talking from two different planes of two different forms of education. I'm also a chiropractor, and I've done, personal training. I've worked in the gym for years. It might be a different approach. But also, despite me versus someone else, the patient is what's most important in front of me. Does this person have a thyroid issue? Does this person have a leaky gut? Does this person have, they have cancer? If you have thyroid cancers, how much protein do we want to give them? It's different for everybody. So I'm just going to give you an average, and don't freak out, because I know if I post things on, Instagram, you get these comments of everyone who is an expert. I'm just giving you an average. A good protein, a good one, we're going to talk about good versus bad. If you're taking in good protein, it should make up at least 30% of your daily calories for the day. So the adult requires 50 to 60 grams. If you looked at your palm, it's about the palm of your hand, about 3 ounces per meal. So that's a great just idea of how to look. So if you're going to the restaurant and you get a piece of meat, and it should be about the size of your palm. So I use steak as a great example, because that's when I go out and people order a steak, and a 3 or 4 ounce steak is fine, but you start seeing people get these big things. I would cut that in half and have some for lunch or dinner the next day. Like, it's 3 ounces per meal, the size of your palm. So you shouldn't really be having a ton. And again, if you're working out, trying to build muscle, you're trying to train in the gym, a vigorous athletic training program is going to up this daily requirement. If you're pregnant, it's going to up this daily requirement. And if you have certain diseases, it might up or lower it. So 2 to 3 servings per day is an adequate amount. And a serving could be, again, the size of your palm, that 2 to 3 ounces of a meal. That could be like lean meat, poultry, fish, half a cup of beans, lentils, legumes, a whole egg would be great, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, which I think 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, if I'm correct, I think it's equivalent to like the 1 ounce of meat, but I don't know if people are actually going to do like 6 tablespoons of peanut butter. I guess it depends what you're eating. So, healthy toddlers between the age of 1 to 3, they only need about 55 grams per their body weight. And then, so a toddler that weighs 30 pounds, they're about 16 grams a day. So, kids between 4 to 6, they're 0.5 grams. So it's about the same body weight. So a 45-pound 5-year-old is 22 grams. So it goes up as you get older, right? A 12-year-old that's 90 pounds would do about 40 grams a day. So the adult is a little bit different. We're about 60 grams per day. So it's going to differ between your sizes. It's going to differ between your demand that you put on the body, and then also your health concerns. So don't take those numbers as, the golden thing or start getting mad. So let's talk about the bad proteins. So again, keep this in just a general education talk. So animal proteins are higher in the harmful fats, right? They're going to be the ones, if you go into the fat talk, animal proteins are in the yellow. So if we're going to be looking at a traffic light, which I love to do, red was really bad. Yellow, I put in, moderation, and we talked about that word. And then I put the other fats in the green. So yellow, I put the animal fats because for fats, when we talked about fats, because there are fats out there that are actually just so much worse for it. But when we talk about proteins, animal proteins can create disease, and what they are is they're just sluggish. So they're just, the protein in that is just more sluggish workers for the body. We try choosing fewer animal proteins and more vegetable proteins. It's not that it's bad, because I would rather somebody eat animal protein than the fake fats in the body. So the protein and fat talk kind of go hand in hand, because if you're eating animals, we're talking about fat. So it's a great source of protein. It's a source of an okay fat. But if you're eating too much of it, let's say you're having red meat every single day, and let's say you have digestive issues, let's say you have joint pain, let's say you have immune, or you're a cancer survivor, we need to discuss how much of that you can have a day, and can we get more plants into you? Can we get more plant proteins? If you're working out hard in the gym, you might need more of the animal, depending upon your health issues. So this isn't a cut. I don't want anyone to think that what we're saying here is a one chop cut all. It's a problem with social media. They think it's a one shot for all, and it really isn't. When you do animal proteins, they're more inflammatory, they're more sluggish, the workers are slower. Remember, we said these are like hard hats, and people don't really know, like 100 grams of beef might have 2 milligrams of iron, but pumpkin, can have just as much, or beans can almost have just as much. So plants aren't necessarily a bad thing. If you're eating too much red meat, if you're eating too much lunch meats, too much processed meats like bacon, pork roll, hot dogs, pepperoni, sausage, salami, and some of these fake meats, that's where I would question. I'm not really a veal, lamb, or pork person. Game meat would be a little bit healthier than all this other stuff. So like red meat, you might say, oh, that's not really so bad, Dr. Lisa. Well, look how it's processed. Are you doing conventional red meat where they load the animals up with hormones and growth hormones and antibiotics, and they feed them corn where, cows aren't really supposed to have corn. They keep them in like a parking lot with tags on their ears. Or are you eating more like grass fed and organic? And are you, like, I have friends that are part of like a co-op where they all put in for one animal, and they raise it really humane, and it's super healthy, and then when it's ready they'll butcher it, and everyone gets their meats, which last like a year. So there's, we can't just say, hey, can't have red meat. Well, what type of red meat are you eating? Are you eating conventional, meat that's not super healthy, or are you eating like a really good game meat? Or did you actually raise your own animals? So where I'm going to put the bad proteins would be in these processed foods. And so when we talk about fats, the bad fats go back to the podcast, but we were talking about man-made stuff, synthetic stuff made in a lab. So fake meats, fake proteins, things that are just altered are not good. So the processed things too, they're being altered. The pork rolls, the hot dogs, the pepperonis, the salami, the sausage, even some of the lunch meats, just not really your good protein sources. I'm going to get into some of the other things in a minute. So be careful about when you're eating the meat and the animal products that, ask yourself why and where are these animals from. Another source of animal protein that you want to think about is dairy. So conventional dairy, when I use the word conventional, it means it's not organic, or it's not wholesome, or it's not, free range, things like that. So with dairy, conventional, non-certified, is loaded with antibiotics, growth hormones, other harmful ingredients depending upon the company. So dairy itself is a mucus-producing and inflammation-producing food. So I can assure you that the number one trigger food, if somebody has a lot of mucus, if they have a lot of asthma, they have a lot of allergies, sinuses, that dairy is gonna, if they cut that out, that's the number one food that will make them feel better. So dairy, although it has a great amount of protein in it, it's a good source of protein, but it's not necessarily the best food for everybody. So I do food sensitivity testing, and this is where I have to pause on the good versus the bad. If I were to test you and you could do turkey and chicken, but you couldn't do red meat, I would be taking you off of red meat, because your gut is attacking your red meat at such a high level, and you were creating high levels of antibodies towards red meat. I would take you off that, and I would say, hey, for your protein, do the chicken and do the turkey, right? I might test you for avocado, which we didn't get into, and we'll get into in a minute. And if you were flagged super high in avocado, but you could have red meat, I'd say, look, you can't do the avocado. So sometimes when we're looking at proteins and I say to you, conventional red meat's not great for you, And people go, oh, I'm going to go over to the plants. But if your gut is attacking the plants, then I have to go through the whole list and be like, what are the best proteins for this patient's gut, for their chemistry of their body? What is their immune system doing with this food? That is like what I want you to take away here, is that it's really with proteins about which ones work best for you and your body. And then after that, you can say to yourself, well, is chicken better than, organic chicken is better than red meat? How do you feel? So let's get back to dairy, which brings me to food sensitivities. I would say half my patients come up with attacking dairy and half don't. So this was interesting because like you could literally have a perfect dairy panel and your body's doing fine with it. And then it might be something I'm saying, okay, well, your body does okay with this. This is a source of protein that you can do, but let's not overdo it. Let's look at their lifestyle. Let's look at their health issues. So that I want you to understand that the food sensitivities have a lot to do with it. When I see the dairy panel in bright red, I'm like, I'm putting the dairy into the red. I'm like, no, you can't have it. So I do look at these and we do talk about these in open according to your health problems, your lifestyle, and your lab results. Same with the good. I'm going to mention the good, but it's also going to come down to lab results as well. So the plants are your superheroes. They not only build and take part in almost every function because they have a lot of those micronutrients in them, and that I talked about. So they have the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, the phytonutrients, everything that's going to protect you from anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, anti-heart disease. They don't typically contain saturated fats. They don't typically contain triglycerides. Those are in a lot of the animal products. But coconut is a saturated fat, so there's always a little exception to the rule here. And what does that mean? Triglycerides are the fats they feel that will clog the arteries. Although if you listen to my fat content in my podcast, we talk a little bit more of how the arteries really get challenged by bacteria and things like that. The plants don't have the bad fats, they have the healthy fats. So that's why if we're looking at a protein and you can do a plant protein, you're getting a double whammy. You're getting a healthy fat with a healthy protein, and it's a healthy carb. So it's perfect in all three things I was talking about. The healthy plant, the healthy carb is the plant, the healthy fat is the plant, and the healthy protein is the plant. Now, protein is more packed in the animal stuff. So like, again, if you're increasing your protein content and you're an athlete trainer, you might have to, think about, how much protein, and you might be counting that. I'm not trying to say you can't have animal products in this. I'm just trying to educate you on the differences. They're also high in fiber, and they're anything but sluggish. So when we have a slow gut, when we have microbiome problems, when we have people with stool issues, constipation, diarrhea, all this stuff, believe it or not, fiber is really, really good. Now, if I have someone super sensitive, we might have to cut back on fiber a little bit because maybe we're overfeeding if we have a bacterial overgrowth in the gut. But this is what the prebiotics, this is where they come from. So prebiotics live in plants. So what is a prebiotic? A prebiotic is a fiber, most found in plants, that's going to feed the probiotics. So if you have these good you have a good gut organisms, the bacteria, the good bacteria in the gut, those are the microbiome, and they feed off plants. So if you don't have a diet high in plants, then you're really hurting your gut microbiome. The plants are also, again, loaded with the vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and phytonutrients. So if you're not eating a lot of plants, you're keeping your body from those. So they're just a win. They protect us from diseases, the heart disease, the cancer, the inflammation, the autoimmune. They're just a win. There's really nothing bad about them. They do get sprayed, so you have to be careful with pesticides and things like that. So try increasing nuts, seeds, avocados, artichokes, peas, beans, legumes, natural soy, not synthetic soy, lentils, things like chickpeas. And you can include the safe animal proteins such as chicken, turkey, eggs, and fish. But be careful about, the hormones and the antibiotics and things like that. So that's really your good balance with proteins. Here's a fact. If you replace animal protein 50 grams with, I'm telling you, tofu, miso, tempeh, or natto, so that's organic soy Pure soy. I don't talk about synthetic soy. You will decrease your cholesterol, the bad stuff, by 50%. You'll also increase your risk of heart disease and cancer. You'll also create a longer lifespan, increase your bone density as well. So if you look at the Japanese diet, 2 to 3 ounces of certified soy per day will create a longer lifespan, lower heart disease, and cancer. There's an actual study on that. I don't have it right in front of me, but there's a study that's where I got that information from. I have to pause here and basically say that it's not crap soy. It's not fake soy. It's not synthetically made soy. It is not soy dogs, soy cheese, soy milk, soy burgers. That's all, again, a problem. Please listen to my fat podcast, but I'm going to bring it up here because here's where some of the fake proteins lie. When you go in there, and in vegans and vegetarians, you do have to be careful here. When you go into like the hot dogs and the cheeses, and they're making these fake meats and these fake this and that, and the fake soy. Soy is one of the most perfect foods. It is a perfect protein, a perfect carb with a perfect fat. It's a perfect food. It's actually, tofu is tasteless, so you can put it in anything and make it taste like what you want. It's a beautiful food. I know people are terrified of the estrogen, but honestly, it's better than estrogen replacement therapy. You could start eating, foods that have estrogen in it, and it's anti-cancer. If you look at Japan, if you look at the Asian cultures, they eat soy, and they don't have some of the diseases we have. This is the same thing with my iodine talk. You can go up and down some of these countries, and you can see what they're eating, and they're doing better than us. But our country will convince us that natural soy is bad, that natural iodine is bad, and that natural salt is bad, right? But meanwhile, what do they synthetically put in everything? It's fake soy, it's fake soy isolates, fake soy proteins, soy this, soy that, right? And then they're going to put no iodine. They're doing fake salts and bleach salts, white salts, synthetic salts, nitrate, salt. It's crazy. They're saying, don't eat these natural things, but we're going to put it in your foods in synthetic form. It's crazy. Literally, food today is nuts. It gets me crazy. What is the last thing I want to leave you with? Oh, before I go. Oh, I know I went over the 20-minute mark. Oh God, these talks I'm going on my soapboxes because I get so crazy with food and they're so basic: carbs, protein, fats. So I want to leave you with protein powders. So they're still synthetic, right? They're still made by a company. So the best source of protein is to get it from food. So if you were making your own I'm going to start here. If you're going to make your own protein smoothie, and I'm sorry I'm going over, but I think this one's so important and you'll appreciate it. If you're making your own protein shake, you could just make a super healthy smoothie and add a healthy protein to it. So what's a healthy smoothie? You can actually go to my website and Google and see it, but you're basically putting in some ice and some water. You could do, the water could be water. The water could be the liquids. You're putting some ice and you're putting some liquid. The liquid could be water. It could be coconut water. It could be a juice if you want. I feel like you don't need that because you're going to add the fruit. But you can do something like an almond milk. You can do something like, coconut milk. You could do regular milk if that's your thing. And that's that. That's the liquid and the ice. Then you're going to add whatever you want it to taste like, whatever fruit. So let's just say it's a banana and it's a strawberry. I'm going to keep it basic. Or it's blueberry, strawberry, banana. You throw that in. You don't need the ice if the fruit's frozen, believe it or not. So if it's fresh, you just put it in. Okay? You blend it. You mix it up. That's it. That's your smoothie. Now, if you want a little bit of sweetness, because the banana is not sweetness, yes, you could add a little bit of honey or a little bit of maple syrup to make it sweeter. Boom, done. To make that a protein, you could add, an avocado. You could add a nut butter. You could add, some people put egg in it. You could put yogurt in it. You could put a natural, healthy protein in there and make that a protein. Perfect. Beautiful, all healthy food. Now, a lot of people love to throw the protein powder in there. Again, that's a synthetic thing, but you can do it. And I just think the simplest ingredients the best. Some of them have so much stuff in it, and I'm not really into the isolates, the concentrates, the hydrogenated oils. You just have to start reading some of these ingredients. And what I like best, if you want my opinion, it's collagen peptides. And this is why. 2 scoops of that can give you 20 grams of protein or 18 to 20 grams of protein. That protein, it's bovine, it's not vegetarian. That we'd have to talk about in a different podcast. We could do a podcast on protein powders. But if you do collagen peptides powder, you are getting amino acids. And that's what we're shooting for, because the building blocks and the beginning of this podcast, I talked about little workers. They put their hard hat on and they go to work and they build all this stuff, hair, nails, skin, tissue, all this stuff. They are builders of the body. It's the amino acids that come from the protein. So when you eat chicken, you're getting the amino acids. That's the protein. We always say, oh, you get protein from here. Well, protein is broken down into amino acids. So when you do collagen peptides, it's already in a combination and a form that's super absorbable of amino acids. We use amino acids to heal the gut. So it's part of my program when we're repairing the gut wall. I shouldn't say heal. I should say repair. I want to correct that, because we're not allowed to say heal. When we were going to repair the damage to the gut wall, we are going to use the collagen peptides, the amino acids. It is a protein powder. It's 18 grams to 20 grams for 2 scoops. So it's protein. And that's what I like to use. I have been using that with my patients, and the people that go to the gym are like, oh my gosh, I've got better results with it. We use it for we've been using it forever. Joints, because I'm a chiropractor, right? Joint pain, ligaments, tendons, tissue, gut repair, hair, skin, nails. And we now use it for neurotransmitters, because you need amino acids for neurotransmitters, for building the brain, for MTHFR, for, various things. And then we might have to cut back on it if somebody has a cancer or a different thing going on. The natural form of this is collagen. So if you made your own collagen, that's a liquid form. You could probably use that as your liquid if you like the taste of that in your smoothie. But if not, that's just another side note, that bone broth is the natural food source for. It's not synthetic. It's natural. It's how you naturally make collagen, is bone broth. So I hope this helped. And again, it doesn't replace your medical care. It is for wisdom and education for you, so you can increase your health factor in your life. And I will, not see you, but we'll definitely listen at the next podcast. Have a great day.